Welcome to the Legally Speaking podcast. You are now listening to season 7 of the show.
I'm your host, Rob Hanna. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by the incredible John Lindsey. John is the president of 𝐬𝐻𝐸 Legal Tech. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 Legal Tech is a team of digital experts led by John, giving law firms the chance of advancing their digital infrastructure. Described as a legal tech rock star, John is also a tech entrepreneur. His parody, popular videos highlight the advancements in the legal tech industry and beyond. So, a very warm welcome, John.
Thank you, Rob. I'm going to record that intro that you just gave, and I'm going to use it myself to sell everything under the sun, because I'm even impressed with whatever that was that you just said. That was pretty good. That is pretty good.
Well, there's a lot more that we need to get through. And before we go through all your amazing projects and experiences to date, we do have a customary question here on the show, which you know all too well. On the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very real, what would you rate the hit TV series Suits in terms of its reality?
Well, I think I shared this with you. I had never watched it until I heard you ask this question all the time. And of course, one of my bucket list items was to be on your podcast. So I was going to be ready, right? You know, I was going to be ready with the question. So not only did I watch the show, but I did a song parody about the theme song. I would rate it at about a 6 is what I was thinking while I was watching it, because I was watching it through the lens that Rob's going to ask this question and I have to have an answer. And I thought they dressed up really nice. And my experience with lawyers has been that they're smooth. And this guy, that at least the one I saw on there, the star, I found him to be very, very suave and smooth. And he had really good hair. I think I almost could go with a 7 just because of his hair. It was so good.
Well, with that, we're going to give a 6, and we're going to move swiftly on to talk all about you, John. Now, what I'm really interested in, because you have a phenomenal journey. So would you mind telling our listeners a bit about your background and your career journey?
Absolutely, Rob. Well, listen, first of all, the idea that I'm even on here on a kind of a legally themed podcast is something obviously I never intended. I got out of school. I was a computer science major, really with a molecular biology kind of under major, and really focused on DNA. I mean, that's really what was happening in the world with technology when I got out, which was 1986 or so. And I got involved with DNA and genetics and the combination of technology, which didn't exist back then. And it's funny, there's a Europe connection here. Dr. Alex Jeffries out of Leicester University was pioneering DNA fingerprinting at the time, and he had used it. Somebody, I think it was Joseph Wambaugh, had wrote a book called The Blooding about Europe, a murder that had taken place, serial murder, I think he was, had taken place just outside of London. And they had the entire town volunteered to give blood samples. And they ended up catching the guy using this DNA technology that was really kind of the pioneer of the DNA technology that you see used today in forensics and paternity cases that back then just didn't exist. And so that was really my focus coming out of school. We built technology specifically for the genetics industry with several different organizations that helped them take what you know as modern day PCR. Back in those days, it wasn't called that. And it's the things that you see now used in the courtrooms. And in fact, we had several instances where we would have to go as experts in court and testify to the statistics and the probability of the technology. When we say, hey, we feel like this DNA sample yields a 1 in 9 billion chance that this person is either the father of a child or someone who has committed a crime, the technology had to back it up, and we had to back up the technology in terms of how we calculated those things. And so that's really where I started my career. But I moved to Texas because I love my wife, and my wife was a Texan at the time. And in Texas, it's oil and gas, right? So there wasn't a ton of DNA going on down there. It was energy, right? Turns out that's just about the energy capital of the world. And I got involved with building software for oil and gas. It led us to some of the things that we pioneer today in our 𝐬𝐻𝐸 group, which is digital twins, right? The digital twins are, and really kind of lead you to some of the models you're seeing today, where people are leveraging machine learning and AI on these large language models. We've been doing things like that for years. We just didn't have cool, fancy names for it. So those assets that run these extraordinary companies, and they're making and refining gas and chemicals, those assets can't go down, or it costs them millions of dollars a day. And so building a digital replica of those assets was really critical so that they could operate on the replica and then make changes to the actual physical asset. And so we have a company that does that, and we do that at scale. We're not one of the bigger ones in the Southwest, but we're a good size, and we service that market and have serviced that market for decades. And so that's really primarily been my focus, Rob, until I met somebody named 𝐤𝐡𝐨𝐿 on a podcast that I have. So I have a podcast that we run called Don't Suck at AI, and I had Kat on, and she talked about all this amazing stuff going on in the legal tech space. And when I hung up with her, I called her back and I was like, whoa, this is really amazing. So this sounds like an industry that's really technology impoverished and ready to really explode. And her take was, John, that's exactly what we see. And so hence here we are.
And here we are indeed. But before we get on to the more legal side of things, and thank you for sharing that journey. And it's great to have that sort of different background on the show. I want to talk about something that I know is very important to you, family. And you mentioned it there, Tanya, your wife. But in your words, what does family mean to you, and why is it so important to you?
Oh man, I'm going to try to get through this without breaking a tear because, just like you, when you talk about the people that mean the most to you, and it's quite frankly, it's why we do what we do, right? I mean, look, I could be a ski bum, I could be a surf bum, I could have lived under a bridge if it wasn't for my family, right? So the idea that you want to provide for your family, and listen, I grew up pretty poor. I didn't really know it at the time, but we were pretty poor, and I always knew that there had to be a better way to go after the provisions you wanted for your family. And not that, we all needed to be millionaires. That was not it at all. But what I wanted was just comfort and not stress, because I saw families that lived intentionally and their lives looked dramatically different than the week to week, paycheck to paycheck kind of lives my parents were leading. And God bless them, they worked their tails off to make sure we had what we needed. But there wasn't anything more than that, right? And so for me, when I got married and I married Tanya, she already had children. And so I came into something that I had never been in, a family network like this. And I just realized how important the head of the household is, and to lead and to set good examples. And it's just been something that's just always been important to me, Rob. I mean, my parents loved me to death. I was adopted. So I've always had this mindset that, wow, they went out of their way and they chose me, they picked me, and then they spent their entire life devoting themselves to me having a good life. Right. And so for me and for Tanya too, that's been our focus for all of our lives. First, to make sure that we have the kind of relationship that we want. And we were best friends. We love each other to death. I've told you this before, that life is so fantastic when you marry the right person. It just makes all the difference in the world. And then when you've got kids to manage together and you have the same life philosophy and life goals, life is just so sweet. It's so cherishable. And so for me, there's just nothing more important. And in our organization, Rob, I mean, family first has not been it's not just been a mantra we don't live by. I mean, we live by that, man. If people have something going on, we're going to tell them, look, you better be with your family. If you're working late at night and your family needs you, shame on you. That's not the message we preach. So we breathe it, we live it. All our partners do the same thing. There's just nothing more important. I don't know why else we would do what we do if it was not for providing for our family. So I'm the same way you are, man. It brings tears to my eyes to talk about how much we love our family, and that extends to our friends as well, right? I mean, we feel the same way for our friends. We want to include them in that caring network of life, right? Where we lift them up, we build them up, we pray for them, we want the best for them. And so that's just how we are as humans, right?
They're our chosen family, right? Our friends are our chosen family. And yeah, I really wanted to get our listeners to learn more about, the real John and, your family, because you do a lot. You do a lot to help and inspire and support people, and you have an incredible journey and backdrop. So let's go into legal tech though, because as I mentioned in the introduction, you are the president of 𝐬𝐡𝐈 Legal Tech. You also work alongside a previous amazing guest we've had on our show as well, 𝐤𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐿. Would you mind explaining to our listeners what 𝐬𝐡𝐈 Legal Tech is?
Well, first of all, let me tell you how it came to be. I mean, again, I told you that 𝐤𝐡𝐨𝐿 told us about the opportunities in the space. And one of the things that she mentioned was the amount of firms that have a desire to digitally transform and take advantage of the latest technology, but really are not equipped to do so. The internal infrastructure for types of technology people available inside some of the firms, particularly the mid-sized firms, they don't have the infrastructure to effectively be prepared for technology. And so we had built a product that we've used over the years. I told you we build digital twins, and we built them for companies that told us they were ready. And when we built the digital twin and they went to leverage it, turns out they weren't ready. And guess who they blamed, Rob? They called me, right? John, this doesn't work. And we said, gosh, we've got to find a way around this. So we built a technology that could be really leveraged in any domain. It's called AIR, our AI Readiness Roadmap. And so what we've been able to do with that product is it's multi-purpose. Is when we find an industry like legal where there's a little technology impoverishment going on, we rebrand it, we put it into that space, and we help those companies use that technology for a readiness, a maturity model, if you will, right? So what does it do? It provides an opportunity to give a firm an understanding of where they are today, to provide a score, if you will. And from that score, we give them a remediation roadmap. We say, look, this is where you're strong, this is where you're weak, and here's exactly what you need to do to go be prepared before you try to leverage some of the legal technology that you'd like to deploy. Because if you don't do it with the appropriate integrations and data strategy and security strategy and all those things, it's probably going to fail. And we see in this industry, I think that, I know that the legal industry feels like they're unique in a lot of aspects, and they are, but their failure rate for digital transformations were just about average with all the other domains that we serve. So we saw an opportunity to fill a need there. We thought this product was perfect. And you mentioned, Anna, what did we need to be able to really, really be accepted into this space? We need to be lawyer led. And, outside of our general counsel, which, we have a general counsel inside our firm, but that's really the only exposure that we have in terms of positions like that. And so we saw Anna and we saw her books. We saw how disruptive she's been in her own practice. We saw the things she'd been able to do as a general counsel, and it was phenomenal. And we reached out and said, hey, we've got this crazy idea. We know you're entrepreneurial. We know you're disruptive. We think this is too. How'd you like to join us on this journey and head it up for us so that we can get the kind of acceptance that we think we need from a lawyer like you that can lead this. And it's been fantastic. You said it earlier, she's amazing. She is so good at what she does. Her practitioner skills are unbelievable. Her people skills are unbelievable. And you combine that with the technology background. And quite frankly, she's added so much to this assessment. And we came to the table with an infrastructure assessment that was generic and ready to serve other industries. She tied in the legal tech piece into this and dovetailed it in like a puzzle piece. It fits beautifully. And so now we have a deliverable where we can compete with the big firms that go out and do this and charge hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we can do it for, in a fixed fee in less than 2 weeks, give them a deliverable report, and we don't have to stay there like a large consulting firm. We can get in, get out, and provide value. So she's done a remarkable job turning this into a business.
Yeah, and absolutely. I completely agree with everything you said. One thing I wanted to talk about, because you mentioned it there, it's kind of the word process, because there are, it needs to be a correct process to ensure that it's all going to work. And I think there are 5 stages that are part of the Insight Legal Tech process: the kickoff, the infrastructure assessment workshop, the legal tech assessment workshop, you're presenting your executive report, and what happens next. So do you want to just touch on a few of those just lightly, or anything you would say to those as part of that process? Because I think it's just genius.
I will. And I think that let's talk about the most important part, right? Because this is the part, and I think people get tripped up on this. And because, look, it's right there in our name, right? Our name is Insight Legal Tech. But at the end of the day, what is this really? You went back to process, and how do these things work and how do they fail? Listen, we've been building technology now for 3.5 decades. And I can tell you that we're not perfect. Sometimes we have flaws in our technology. Look, even Microsoft and Apple do, right? They're never going to be perfect. But the majority of times that you see failure in an implementation, it's not the technology, right? I mean, and when it is, it's pretty easy to identify and fix. The failure is usually around the process. And the process in particular that's most important to me comes back to something you said earlier. It's people. Change is really hard for people. It just is. And so one of the things that we've been masters of for decades is, look, our technology, yeah, it's as good as everybody else's. I won't tell you it's great. I won't tell you it's poor. It's right there where it needs to be. But where we are phenomenal, we understand that 80% of what we do is people and change management and process. 20% is technology. So I tell people all the time, man, we are like Dr. Phil. We know how to help people. We know how to help leadership get on board and get that message out there and build momentum, right? And capture the vision and promote it for people so they can really get behind it, right? I mean, that's a critical piece to this because people don't want to change. I don't want to change, right? So I know other people don't want to change. So you've got to cast that vision. And how do you do that? You got to teach the leadership first how to do it and embrace it and cast that vision. Then you got to go to the middle management who are going to be the ones that ultimately deploy this stuff. You got to get them excited about this. You got to understand what it's going to provide to them. What is the value? Why do they really need this, right? It can't just be technology for technology's sake. It really has to make their lives easier. It has to make things better for them. And they have to believe that, right? Because they have to cast that down to the people that are actually going to be the doers every day using this. And so for us, that's the piece that we've spent so much time on because that's what people miss. Why do these things fail? Again, I told you before, they don't typically fail for technology reasons. That's bits and bytes and zeros and ones, and it's all binary. It figures itself out. People, man, you have some toxic leadership. You have people that don't get on board. You have people that don't embrace it, that don't understand the process enough to be able to go ask and do what they've been told to do, and they're confused. That vision is really the piece that we do so well. And I think that's why when we get in, that's the secret to being able to get in and get out. I think a lot of the big consulting companies miss this. And while they make a lot of money doing that, right? They unload 6 or 7 people there and they stay there forever. And they charge a lot of money. Sometimes they get results. But at the end of the day, it's never focused on the deliverable, right? For us, it's get in, get out, make change, and then teach these people. And Rob, look, you do this too. I know you're set up to do this, right? It's teach a man to fish, right? We don't want to go in and do it for them. We want to show them how to do this. And there's a method that once they adopt it and they deploy it, it's going to produce results. And the beauty is, yeah, they might need us to come in periodically to help them, touch up and brush up and do some things. But for the most part, they're able to do it independently on their own once we leave. And that is the critical piece to the success, right? Is they own it. They're doing it. They believe it. They bought into it and it's going to work. So, and that's it. And we don't look, I'm going to tell you right now, my name's on this. We don't leave until it works, right? We don't always get it right the first time. We might have to come back 2, 3, 4 times. We don't really know, but I'm going to tell you right now, when we are done, we make sure it works. That's just how we do it. And so that's, I think, the process piece that you talk about is that it's really a people process.
Yeah, I love how you highlight that. And yeah, I just love you will not walk away until it's done, like the quality of standards and values that you live by. I want to talk about this a bit more in terms of knowledge, because your website says knowledge is only power if you have the surge to do something with it. Can you share the meaning behind that quote and what it means to you?
Well, it's amazing to me because I think this industry is a perfect, so this industry and how it works, because listen, I mean, in order to be a lawyer, you got to be brilliant, right? So everybody already knows everybody in here is smart and they're full of knowledge. But, why do you pick certain people over others? And I see this all the time is that, the people that are filled with all this knowledge, unless they can deploy it effectively, it really becomes useless and worthless, right? It doesn't do anything on its own. It's static. It needs something, right? It needs a charge. It needs a catalyst. It needs something to make that knowledge be either transferred or deployed or useful in some capacity. And so this industry is a perfect example of that. Let's just make the assumption that if you got through school, top-notch grades, and got accepted into these law schools, you're already 100 times smarter than me, because I couldn't do that. So those people are brilliant. But what do you do with that knowledge, and how do you do it better? And so particularly in the smaller firms, we see this where people are just so brilliant, but they really haven't figured out a way. Maybe they've got to go to scale, for instance. Well, how do you take that knowledge in their head for what they do in that domain and that specific discipline they serve and make that knowledge more readily available so that you can share that with other people, right? You need some sort of infrastructure. You need a process. You need a catalyst to be able to deploy. And I think that's one of the things that's missing. And so we say all the time that, look, it's in there. You've got that secret sauce in your entity. You wouldn't be in business if you didn't. And everybody's company DNA is unique, right? So they've got this stuff that's stored away. And 9 times out of 10, what we find is they're just not utilizing it effectively. And again, I think this is a unique piece, Rob, for us, is that, there are 2 ways to look at our group. One is you guys aren't lawyers, you never served lawyers, and you really have no business coming here telling us what to do. But, here's the other side of that, right? Is that You guys serve other domains. You take best practices, you build best practices, and you can bring those that have been in utilization for years, sometimes decades. You can bring them to this space and you can help us get over hurdles that maybe we have not been able to get over on our own. And I think that's the value here, to unlock that knowledge, to tie it to best practices that already exist and utilize it effectively so that you can move forward fast, right? You can deploy and you can scale, you can be efficient. That's the key to this whole thing. And I think we're really well equipped to do that. And the reason we are is because we have not lived in this industry, right? We're not stuck in a thought process that maybe has held us back or held other firms back that could be a little bit antiquated. We've taken the roof off of it and said, look, we're just looking for best practices. And if they work in other disciplines, there's a good chance that we could deploy them in your organization and they could work here too. That's the secret for us.
Yeah, and I love that. And it comes back to, and I forget who talked about this, but, if law firms, legal businesses are not willing to disrupt their businesses, then, someone else is going to do it for him, right? And I think this is a great example there, that actually embracing people from outside of the legal industry, looking in, that aren't blindsided, like you say, bringing these fresh perspectives, doing this objective analysis, providing the data, and all these great solutions, processes, and so forth. It's got to be a win. But, sometimes the legal industry is a little risk averse, and when adopting legal tech, what are some of the common pitfalls, that lawyers and law firms should be aware of avoiding?
I think that some of the biggest challenges I've seen, and listen, I get, so you and I see each other on LinkedIn all the time, and we see dialogue going on out in the open. A lot of the dialogue that we're having with these law firms and the lawyers is really happening in the background. They don't want to put a lot of this out there in the public domain, obviously, because this is not something that you talk about, right? You never talk about failures and things that don't work. Here's what I know. And this is really not John Lindsey's opinion. This is based on what people have told me. Here's my problem. People are looking for point solutions that they can cobble together to solve a big overarching problem. And when you do that, if you're focused just on those small point solutions, it becomes a real myopic approach, right? Because those tools that you're purchasing, while they may solve one of your problems, they're typically not set up and equipped to work in the ecosystem of your firm, right? They're not integrated with the other data sources. They probably don't talk to the reporting tools that you use the same way. They probably don't talk to your billing tools. So there's really not anyone in these organizations, to my knowledge, that a lot of these people have been promoted up through the ranks. They might have known Excel really well, or they had some systems background, but they're not really systems software developers, infrastructure guys like we deploy. So we are used to, from small companies up to Fortune 5s, at coming in and looking at how an ecosystem works together. And so I think one of the big misses here is the short-sighted looking at one or two point solutions and thinking you can put those things together and they're going to behave harmoniously. It's not typically the case. They're not built. And really the software vendors, and listen, we sell software. So this is, I'm guilty as charged, right? That their goal, the software vendor, is to show you what their product does, period, right? It's not really to help you get it integrated into the rest of your ecosystem. So when these things get deployed and they don't do exactly what you had hoped your expectations for that product would be, then you're disappointed and you don't understand why. And the fact is, it probably does do what they told you it would do. It just doesn't do all the things that you didn't know you needed for it to behave in that ecosystem effectively, right? And that's the critical piece, is that we're not thinking about today and tomorrow. We're thinking about next year and the next 5 years, making certain that this stuff all works together, right? I mean, that's really, at the end of the day, what you're trying to accomplish. And that's what we're really good at. And so we're technology agnostic, right? We don't really care so much what legal tech tools you pick for, contracts or trademarks or whatever it happened, litigation, whatever you happen to be doing is not really relevant to us. I mean, I know it's relevant to them, Rob, but at the end of the day, they're bits and bytes, right? At the back end of this, where it really matters and it's really important and you integrate these things, this is really where the secret sauce and the magic happens, tying all those things together. And there has to be a strategy for how you put those things together. You can't just have one group buy a product because they like it and the other group buy a product because they like it and think that they're harmoniously going to work together. What happens is, a lot of times, look, this. I mean, a lot of times we get to places and we go, wow, you guys have all the technology you need. It's just not sewn together right. We got to decouple this. We've got to build some processes and workflows and integrations in between here. And we can tie all this together and make it work for you fabulously. You don't need to buy a thing, right? You just need to utilize what you've got better because you did not know how to do that. And I think that's one of the magic things that we like to tell people all the time is, look, we hit the ground. We're not trying to sell you anything. We're trying to, really our goal, if we could, is to take what you have and make it work and scale into the future for you. Gosh, if we can leave sites like that, man, they didn't have to spend any more money. They get to utilize what they've already purchased. Everybody's happy, right? We love that. And I think that's one of the pieces where there's extreme short-sightedness only because people just don't know. They don't know how to put these things together, and we do.
And that is the key, isn't it? You know, you need to have that expertise to ensure that it runs smoothly now, but like you say, in the future, and can evolve and grow with your business and support you, and all of the great things that you mentioned. You've talked us through your fascinating sort of entrepreneurial journey and how you sort of transitioned into legal tech. You know, how has your previous experiences and, you know, your current ventures, how have they contributed to this overall entrepreneurial journey and assisted you with Insight Legal Tech? Is there sort of a couple of things that stand to mind?
Time for a short break from the show. How do you fit your entire law firm into your pocket? By using 𝐤𝐬's legal software. That's how. 𝐤𝐬 is the solution UK law firms choose to help them work more flexibly wherever they are, because it works on any device, including a laptop, Mac, or mobile. You can carry 𝐤𝐬 with you wherever you go. Record your time, manage documents, send client communications, and even keep colleagues updated when you're on the move. Whether you've got to do the school run, commuting to meet a client, working from home, or the office, or anywhere in between, 𝐤𝐬 fits around how you want to work. Want to see how it all works? Check out 𝐤𝐬.com/legally speaking. That's CLIO.com/legally speaking. Now back to the show.
Well, there is, for one, just confidence, right? I mean, I've been doing this for a long, long time. And you can tell when you look at you and then you look at me, how much older than you I am. So, yeah, and with that, you should come a lot of wisdom, right? And so, but in addition to wisdom comes failures, and failures lead to learning how to do things the right way, right? And I told you before, we're not perfect. We're not the best. We never claimed to be. We failed a lot, right? But we always learn from it, and we never, ever leave the clients holding the bag. But what those failures have taught me over the years is that, number one, first of all, across all these industries that we serve, because we're very, very diverse in terms of our software applications. I mean, we've been in retail, right? We've been in genetics, where I've told you, been in pharmaceuticals, been in medical. We've been in a lot of these different spaces. And what you learn is it's not that dramatically different at the back end, right? Technology is technology. It needs to work together. And so I think we've built the confidence where when we sit down with people, we have a really good feeling that if they listen to the advice that we give, right, and they're willing to be ready to deploy some of the things that might seem counterintuitive to them at the time, we're really confident that we're going to make your life better. Are we going to make it perfect? Nope. That doesn't exist. But are we going to make it a lot better than it is today? There's a reason you called us, right? I mean, you didn't call us because things are perfect. You called us because some things are missing. We're confident. So I think, back to what you asked me in terms of over the years, what has doing all these things in all these different industries with technology. I think it's two things. Number one, first of all, I told you I started out, and I wasn't very good. I started out as a software developer, and my partners early on came to me. This is a true story. They said, John, look, we're really, really good software developers, and you suck. So you're sales. And true story. They told me that. I was like, wow, my feelings are hurt. I didn't think I sucked. I knew I wasn't great, but I had the basics. So I learned pretty quickly that while they were right. I wasn't a very good software developer, but the skills haven't really changed. So I can still to this day talk to software developers and understand what they do, right? So it's easy to have conversations when you have that kind of background. So that makes it easy. And then just the confidence of, look, we've been able to help so many firms along the way do this right, that I know that when we get to you, we're going to be able to help you too. So I think that level of confidence, but delivering it with a layer of humility. When I was your age, I probably was not nearly as humble as I am now. I think we've worked on developing, what would be referred to here in the States as your bedside manner. I think we're very good listeners now. We gauge what people need and what they want, and we're good at trying to turn that into something. And I think that's a skill that we've evolved over the years, and all of us. I mean, most of my group are, not terribly young. And so I think we've learned from over the years how to create a really, really good customer experience for people. And what do people want at the end of the day? Outside of wanting your business to run better and have that technology work, if you can enjoy the process while you're doing this, isn't it better, right? You're going to pick the guys where you can get it right, you can get it done, it's going to work. Oh, wait, I get to have fun while I do it, working with these guys. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And so it's a core value. Look, you hear me say this all the time, and some of the stupid things you see us doing out there on LinkedIn, that's real. That's our personality, man. So fun has been a core value of ours from day one. It always will be. I don't do anything if I don't have to, if it's not fun. And so being able to bring fun, that's the other piece I think we learned when I was in my 20s. I was so nervous about getting the work right for my clients that I forgot to embrace the fun, right? I'm, like this, right? You're so tense and you're scared. Are you going to get it right? And all that is behind us now. Now we get to be able to help our clients enjoy an amazing customer experience while you're going through something that arguably is pretty stressful and challenging for them. And what does that do? Does the same thing that your doctor does when you go to a really, really good doctor. He puts you at ease, right? You go, oh man, doc, I don't feel very good. It's going to be all right, man. Look, let me just walk you through it. As opposed to that cold bedside manner where it's not a good experience. There's a huge difference between what you know to be a good customer experience and a bad one. And I think that's one of the things that we do so well. It's just simply because we've done it for so long that we understand that people element, and people that feel comfortable, they work better, right? They have more fun. They tell you more things. They know you're on their side. They know, our goal is to make the people at these firms look like heroes, man. That's our job, right? And so the apprehension to call us sometimes is, gosh, I'm going to call these guys, are going to know what I don't know. And you got to put them at ease, man. And we don't make people feel like they don't know something. We're going to make you the hero of your firm. When we leave, you're the rock star, not us. We're going to give you all the credit. We're going to help you do it. We're going to build you up. We're going to give you the skills you need. We're going to set you on your way, and we're going to be here for you throughout the entire process. That's how you get it done, right? So they leave, they're happy, they've had a fun experience, and they tell everybody else.
Yeah, it's client, right? You care. You want them to kind of feel like absolutely, like they are the rock stars of the show. And, I love, there's so many nuggets of wisdom in there as well, timing the market, so people talk about timing versus time in the market, and you've got this experience, you've got this wisdom behind you, you've had some previous experiences, you're putting all of this wisdom collectively in and really providing a stellar solution. And I think that the legal industry absolutely needs this. I want to talk about culture in terms of running businesses, because it's something that's super important, because you've had experiences building businesses from the ground up, cultivating an environment where employees and clients thrive. You talked about from the client side. What's your take on culture and leadership in the workplace, and how can we distinguish a toxic workplace in comparison to an organization willing to support career progression, for example?
Great question. It's interesting because, and I don't know if I'm unique with this or not, but I tell people this all the time. That first of all, it's easy, I think, to build a culture of trust when you're a leader like me. So let me give you an example. Your lawyers, they're all brilliant. They're all smart. They got better grades than me, got better schools than me. Look, when I grew up, my sister was brilliant. I wasn't. My parents used to always go, yeah, it's going to be okay, John. Don't worry. So I knew my expectation level was a little low. But there's something freeing about that, right? So my goal was always to go find really, really smart people, bring them into the organization, pay them as much money as I could possibly afford to pay them and still be profitable, and then let them do their thing, right? Create a culture of, look, I'm going to hire you for your mind. I'm going to expect you to use it, right? And even better than that, listen, when you're done, and this is something unique. I mean, I know everybody got on the work from home bandwagon after COVID. We've been doing this for decades. There's some people that have to go out to our client sites, and that's unavoidable. So they don't necessarily get to participate in that all the time. But for the most part, for us, my attitude's always been, look, if you're done your work and you want to hit the beach and you can do it in 3 hours, man, dude, you just saved yourself 5 hours, head for the beach. If my client is happy, you do what you got to do. And so it's so different and this industry is unique in that the hours are, the reward of, I see this all the time with following people on LinkedIn where I pulled an all-nighter. I'm here till midnight. I'm leaving the office. I'm looking at whose lights on. Man, we don't do that. To me is toxic. That's beyond toxic. We don't reward people taking a long time to get something done, right? If you can get it done fast, good. Get it done fast, get it done right, make my client happy, and you can go do whatever the heck you want to do. Call me when you're done. So I think our culture has been built on trust. And I think the work from home, when I see people say, gosh, how can you know they're working? It's just, I'm speechless when I see it. I'm going, what I have to do? I have to call people and tell them don't work so much. Because if you let them stay at home, they're going to start like I do at 4 a.m. and they might not end till 7. There's more of a cautionary tale there to make them stop working because it's so easy to overwork. So trust your people, hire people you can trust. If you're hiring people you can't trust to do a job and you're not going to let them freely go leverage the skills that you hired them for, I'm not really sure what you're doing. To me, I don't understand that. And listen, I know there's a lot of it out there, but not in our organization. We bring in people that we know and trust. And listen, I mean, I know I've seen people say this, don't call our company a family, don't call our, sorry guys, I disagree, man. If your assessment of family means dysfunctional to you, really sorry. But, my assessment of family does not mean that at all. Mine means loving, caring, supporting, nurturing, all those positive things. And that's absolutely the sentiment I want to create within this organization, that we are caring individuals. And look, we don't do things perfectly. We don't ever. You put people together and it's not going to be perfect. But the organization, it starts with trust, and it starts with me, right? I mean, that's where it starts. And it has to be real. It has to be real. They have to know it's real.
Yeah, genuinely authentic leadership built on trust. I love that, and absolutely, you live and breathe your core values and everything you stand for. We've talked about it, we've touched on it, but of course we have to talk more about LinkedIn, because you are the singer of silly song parodies. Why did you start making parody videos, John?
Let me tell you a little bit about my social media journey. First of all, a year and a half ago, I was let's not call it LinkedIn, because I didn't really know anything about LinkedIn, right? As an owner of a company, you don't need a resume. So I always thought that was really just a place people put their resume. So I never even looked at LinkedIn. I didn't really understand it. But social media in general was not something I did either. I hated it. It's just not my cup of tea. But when we started to look at how we're going to deploy this division of legal tech and start a new entity in this age, and everybody's at home, and the only way to reach them is social media, we thought, okay, we've got to do something different. So, I kind of got tapped as, hey, we need a voice and a face for this particular division. Somebody's got to do it. So I thought, okay, I'll try. I looked at LinkedIn and said, wow, there's, almost 1 billion people out here, and I see what they're doing, and I'm not sure how anyone is ever going to find me. So I found Sherry Belize. Do you know Sherry? You follow Sherry, I'm sure. And her writing has been this captivating message using primarily 80s music. And I went, oh, are you kidding me? Def Leppard for jury selection? Oh, I'm in, right? I'm in. So I called her up and I said, hey, I see what you're doing. It's amazing. It's one of the very few skills I have is writing stupid lyrics for songs from back in the 80s. So can I steal it? But I won't rip it off completely. I'm going to sing it. And she's like, man, if you're going to do that, you go right on and rock on. So, and I can't sing. So that's the beauty of it, right? It wouldn't be funny. People all the time reach out and go, well, gosh, you must do this in bars. You must sing karaoke. No, I don't even sing in the shower. I can't sing, but I love music. It's been part of the kind of the background and the fabric of just about everything I do. I can almost tie every event that was, something fun in my life to a song, right? And it's just the way we've grown up, me at least personally. And so I thought, okay, this is crazy and silly and nuts. And look, I'm at the end of my career. If it's career sabotage, who cares, right? It's not going to hurt me. So trust me, I tell you, I would not have done this if I was in my 30s. I would never have had the guts to do this if I was in my 30s. But I thought, what the heck? Let's throw a wig on. Let's sing some stupid songs. But let's embed a message in there and see if people can't get the message. And let's see if it helps us stand out a bit. And sure enough, Rob, I mean, it's one of those crazy things you just can't predict it. I think my wife, my kids, my everybody just mortified that I was doing this. People that I've grown up with as a kid, they're like, you never sang anything. How did this happen? And I said, well, look, it's a necessity, right? I mean, when you're running a business, you have to do what you have to do. And so you got to take one for the team. And so that was really it. It was foundationally looking for a differentiator that would, because look, I'm not young. I don't have time to build this legal tech business over 15 years. I needed to move fast. And the only way I was going to move fast was to have somebody see us and hear us, unfortunately for you all, and hear us. And so the rest is history. We just started putting out these silly things. We did it consistently. We embedded a little technology message in there. And lo and behold, we learned that, guess what? A lot of lawyers need a laugh. And so then it just kind of took on its own life. And so here we are, right? It's absolutely crazy.
And it's been a huge success. And there's some great lessons in there, because you talk about consistency, you talk about being different. You've built a personal brand, you're helping your business. I say LinkedIn's a 24/7 largest professional networking site. You can be logging in, logging out at any point, and you're still got a potential to meet your next customer, your next mentor, your next business partner, your next friend, your next relationship, whatever it might be. Like, there's so many potential options on LinkedIn. It's just a place you need to invest some time. We've even done some parody cool videos together about Web3. We've got some more stuff, no doubt, we'll do in the future. future as well. I'm just a big fan of those. But what would be...
No, and you and I, look at that. I mean, you and I mean, think of the collaboration that came from that. You're a business owner. I'm a business owner. We met each other. We're friends. When you come to the States, dude, we're breaking bread, right? I mean, this stuff is real. So if you think or thought errantly as I did that this is Facebook, it's not. This is a place to do business in a way that you can't reach this many people in this capacity anywhere else. If you're not doing this, you are missing out. And I'm not suggesting anybody go out and start singing stupid songs like I do, but however you reach people authentically, there's a place for you on this network. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, and that level of connection you then build with those people is so genuine, so authentic. It just truly works. So, okay, good, and I'm glad because we're big fans of LinkedIn. But as a tech entrepreneur, John, what developments do you think we can expect to see in the coming years? Maybe concerning document automation, case management, billing, cybersecurity. I know you touched on this earlier, but what are some of the big picture things you see coming down the pipe?
For me, and listen, we all got sideswiped by what's going on with this whole generative AI. I mean, I told you before earlier in our conversation that we had built these types of learning models back in the day. We didn't have a fancy name for them, but what's so unique now is the models that we build for digital twins, Rob. You couldn't just have somebody walk up and say, hey, use the model I just built, right, to run this Rolls-Royce turbine engine. No one's going to know how to do that. What amazed me, and I don't think any of us saw this coming. If you did, you're way smarter than me. In November, when that came out, where you had an interface to a model like OpenAI, it's like ChatGPT, and I experimented. I tested this. I took my 13-year-old grandson. I told him nothing. I said, here's a keyboard and here's a screen. Read the screen and tell me what you're going to do. And he started typing, and pretty soon he's got recipes. He's got songs. He's got his little Ben Franklin term paper. He's got AI. The whole world changed in November, in my opinion. And so now we're at a pace where look, this is insane, and I think it's because that interface was the iPhone moment, right? It opened up something that you required people like us, that you had to be a software engineer or a data scientist to even understand how to talk to the model, right? Now, all of a sudden, wow, I can take a 13-year-old kid and put an interface, and I don't even have to tell them anything, just like handing them an iPhone. I think it's changed the way the world's going to work. I've never seen anything like it. So when you ask about where the majority of change is going to come from, I think the large language model piece on top of the machine learning piece, on top of specific domain expertise that can be deployed and leveraged inside. Legal's a perfect example. Forget who the firm was that just expanded the Harvey AI model out, but it's exactly what's going to happen. So you're going to see leaps and bounds like we've never, ever seen. I think the world's going to change with this stuff. It's unbelievable. So what aspect of law will this affect? Every aspect of law. There's no way around it. And listen, I realize, look, I've sang some songs about it, and I find myself going, gosh, if I have to hear another GPT quote or questioner, there's a reason you're getting deluged with it, because it is one of the most phenomenal things we've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime, right? And if you don't utilize this in some capacity, you're absolutely missing out. Are there going to be flaws with it? Do we have concerns about security? Do we have concerns about bias? Sure. But didn't we have all those concerns yesterday too? And with all of our other technologies, we did. We're going to learn how to live with that. So to me, I think that's going to be the biggest change that we see over the next, let's call it the 24 to 36 months, because I don't know if you can see any further than that. It is an amazing time to be alive, but it is also an amazing time to be in business. Are you kidding me? I've watched people go, wow, hey, how do I build a business on $100? And the thing will come back and write a business plan, right? When the guy took a cocktail napkin and scanned it and said, build a website off this, and the thing went off and build a website, right? It writes better Python code than I do, which maybe isn't saying all that much, but the point is, we couldn't do those things before. Are you kidding me? It's unbelievable. It makes me, this is what, look, if you ain't excited about this, if you can't see my video, if the people can't see my video screen right now, but if they could, I can barely stay in my chair. This is exciting.
Yeah, it is, with a capital E. And I think the other word to go with that is embrace. Now is the time to educate and embrace. Do not go on the sort of, okay, well, maybe this is not, it's happening. The speed of change is real. You've got to keep speed. And, I think it's an exciting time where we can all benefit. You've talked very, intelligently around AI. This is the question that everyone keeps asking. Will AI eventually replace lawyers?
No. No, I don't think it's ever going to replace people, not even just lawyers. I mean, look, discrete manufacturing. If you're in discrete manufacturing, you already watched what happened with robotics. And are they going to replace lots of people? Is it going to do it better? Sure. But look, a lot of the stuff that we do, I just don't see it happening. I mean, first of all, there are things that human beings bring to the table that I just think as human beings, we're always going to want at the table, right? Look at the things that AI is producing today. I can read them. Here, look, if I've not used ChatGPT to write a song, but I've seen others that have done it, and I read it and I go, no emotion. I'm not really feeling it. It can't really, there are certain things that human beings do, and I can't put my thumb on exactly how we do all those things, right? That's a meet our maker kind of conversation there, but it's way better than computers are ever going to do, in my opinion. So I can't answer in forever terms, but I can tell you in my lifetime, is that ever going to happen? I don't see it. I don't see it replacing. I think that the people that have quoted it and said, look, we're just going to use it to do our jobs better and make our life better. And this is what we've always done with technology. Why is this any different? That's what we're going to do. We're going to make it better. Will it take some people's jobs? Sure. But look at what the jobs it can create. I think the creation piece of it, people need to focus a lot more on reskilling and upskilling and taking advantage of some of the things. And quite frankly, probably going to find jobs that are going to pay a heck of a lot more. A month ago, 2 months ago, did you ever know there was a job for, generative AI prompt development or whatever that was? And, the people are paying $350,000 a year for it. Heck no. Well, if you're a guy who just lost his job, maybe you want to go look at that. That's pretty good money. So I think the future is going to be, how do we take advantage of it? The people that are already looking at opportunities. I see so many new job descriptions already that in the last 90 days didn't exist. I see so many business plans being written about some of the cool stuff, what it's going to do in genetics and some of the areas of biotech that we work in. We're just scratching the surface on this stuff. I mean, we're just generating some cutesy content right now. Wait till this thing really takes off and you've got all these millions of people that have signed up for it in the last 90 days. It's going to be unbelievable. Who knows? Is it going to be fantastic? Is everything about it going to be good? Nope. But is it going to advance technology faster than anything I've seen in a long, long time? Yep, because it already is.
It absolutely is. And, like you say, I think it's going to create such opportunities for the legal industry as well. And, folks, have a look at Richard Suskind's latest book. He talks about the new potential opportunities and jobs that lawyers are going to have, because it's not just going to be the traditional route. There's so many other options, career routes, alternatives, legal design engineers, all these other things that are going to be happening, which, embraces legal and tech. And I guess that leads nicely to, my final question, if I may, John. What advice would be to aspiring tech lawyers or those who are interested in tech generally? Are there any resources or lasting lessons you would like to share to help our listeners learn and understand more?
Well, I think you come back to LinkedIn. First of all, I mean, look, I'm a student of LinkedIn now. And so I have started to take a lot of the courses that they promote that are available for free online all over the place. So if I'm a person who is a lawyer and really hasn't understood how to maybe embrace this type of technology, two things. Number one, first of all, you can get an appetite for how the technology works, but that's only part of the question. Really, it's okay. So that's great. And that's bits and bytes and tactical, but how can I utilize it to do things differently than I'm doing today? How can I maybe make myself more efficient? How can I maybe add to my repertoire that I'm offering the services today that I can offer more? How can I do more with less? I mean, there's so many opportunities to, one, learn about the technology, but even more so to learn about how to deploy the technology effectively, right? So I think if you're interested in this, couple things. Don't be afraid of it. It's become so easy to consume. You do not need to be a data scientist or a computer programmer or a geeky techie kind of person. It's come down to earth. It really has. It's understandable in English. This whole generative AI has given us the ability to be able to talk to tools in English, right? So you don't need to feel like you need to be a developer to leverage it. And then secondly, there are so many ways to deploy today that, again, lawyers are brilliant, right? So let's start using some of that brilliance to think outside the box a little bit and think about how we can do things better, faster. One of the things that jazzes me right now, Rob, and I see a lot of the people that I follow on LinkedIn doing it, it's how do you make the system better and more effective and more available, right? I mean, that's one of the things I want to see is that, look, for us, I mean, I've been through business courts, family courts, and and I understand how much time and how much money that takes. And that's not available to people that need it, particularly ones that are not, middle class. I think, this technology has to be leveraged to be able to put what people need legally in their hands affordably. And I think this gives us the ability to start doing that. That's really the exciting piece to me. So if I'm in law and money's not the only thing that drives you, and you care about what that industry can do for people that really don't have access to it today, this is the time. I mean, this is the time to be able to start thinking about that. So I think you can be altruistic as well as, capitalistic in the same sentence. Use this technology that's available to be able to make more money for yourself while you're making the industry better and more accessible for others. I think that's the key.
Yeah. And it's something we strongly promote on the show is, how can we leverage technology to improve the access to justice gap? And I think you've articulated that brilliantly there. John, it's been an absolute blast. And if our listeners, which I'm sure they will, want to know more about Insight Legal Tech, your parody videos, or yourself, where can they find out more? Feel free to shout out any websites, any social media handles. We'll also share them with these links.
Listen, I'm the only social media I do is LinkedIn. So you'll find me on LinkedIn. Just look for the wig. Real easy to find out there. And if you want to go to our website, if you're interested in what we do at Insight Legal Tech, it's just insightlegaltech.com. Make sure you spell insight wrong. Right? It's INCITE and it's LO. Right? Got to make sure you spell it wrong every time. So we're available. We've got a fantastic team that would love to talk to anybody about technology. We're jazzed about it. Rob, thank you. First of all, you're a dear friend of mine. You're absolutely what I love about LinkedIn. And so relationships like this, business relationships like this, friendships like this, it's all out there. This podcast, I mean, you reach so many people. It's so good. It's one of the best to me. Look, man, I listen all the time when I have windshield time. It's one of the absolute best. When this comes out, it's like a bucket list for me, man. I can't believe I'm even on here. So look, this one's going to my family. I'm going to say, see, told you. I hit the big time, man. I might not be able to be on Jimmy Fallon, but I got on with Rob, baby.
Exactly. Well, it's our absolute pleasure, John. We've absolutely loved hosting you. I would like to extend a huge thank you to you because John is a tremendous support of the Legally Speaking podcast and indeed my own personal endeavors. So John, thank you. You're a true thought leader, community-focused supporter. And for that, it's an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I've loved having the opportunity to learn more about your journey, your values. So from all of us on the Legally Speaking podcast, wishing you lots of continued success with your future pursuits. But for now, over and out.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you like the content here, why not check out our world-leading content and collaboration hub, the Legally Speaking Club, over on Discord. Go to our website, www.legallyspeakingpodcast.com, for the link to join our community there. Over and out.